Man, y'all know what it is, man. Path Podcast. We want to thank y'all for getting us to 1,000 subscribers. Now help us reach our next goal of 2,000 subscribers. We appreciate y'all. We out. What's up, everybody? Big Wood Artist here with the Path Podcast, the place where it's cool to watch anime, where it's cool to be you. And we are now on the path with Alex, aka Worldismynee, across all platforms. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm here representing me as well as Dropout Party, who I always have called Coffee since I've met them. They weren't able to make it today, but they did take a look at the questions and offered their input as well.
Okay, great. So let's start with, how are you doing today? How's your day going? You're in AZ, right? How's it over there in AZ?
It is 100 degrees outside right now. Everything's dry and blowing up, so it's like allergy season and baking outside. But I'm nocturnal, so I slept through most of it today.
Okay, there we go. Hey, man, for me, I hate the heat with a passion. Anywhere that got an air conditioner, cool for me. Okay, but let me dive in. Let me just ask you this, right? So, who are you, and how did you end up walking the path of a Warrior You comic creator?
So I would like to clarify that Warrior You was created by Aisha Tani. She had a in-character ask blog where like you could interact with the characters in real time. She had a concept art blog where she'd like post stuff she was working on. And during like the height of the fandom, she had a hard drive crash and 3 weeks of updates and pages gone. And in that time, it gave her the time to like look back at the comic and do the one thing that all artists do, like, oh no, this is crap. I can't post this. Like, I can't go back and rewrite it. I'm releasing stuff serialized. And I watched in real time as writer's block killed one of my favorite comics. It was awful. But at the time, I wasn't a strong enough artist to just like throw my hat in the ring and say like, hey, I'll help out if you need it. Like I was, 17 or 18 at the time. Coffee was, closer to 13 and was just like seeing the comic through what his brother had shown him. So both of us couldn't do anything about it. And then in the middle of the pandemic, I'm minding my own business and then I get 70 notifications from Coffee. We're blocking the old art from the blogs that I'd saved because she deleted everything except like this one core blog where she was posting the Gumroad re-releases. And after she re-released the comic behind that paywall, like the fandom died. So I was totally surprised, a year ago to have someone go like, I want them all. Like I want all the original content. I want the drafts that she had released, all of it. And I was like, shoot, I can look through my old computers. I can upload stuff. And, Coffee really wanted that fandom revival, but you can't have a fandom revival without new content.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it and I had saved these drafts thinking like, one day when I have enough skills, I'll give it a try. I'll try to finish the comic. And when Coffee had messaged me, I was like, I can do it now. Like I have the pens, I have the art skills, I have the writing, like let's give it a shot. So I drafted up the page, just line art, sent it to Coffee. And I was like, hey, like this is just like a, like a thank you for trying to get the fandom back together. I was, super big into it back in the day. It's going to take me forever to color because I have a full-time job doing other stuff. And he's like, I could color it. So all of a sudden, a page that would take me a month by myself took 3 days to make.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I was like, do you want to like just do the whole thing? And he was like, yeah, sure. And within 6 months, 45 pages, he scripted all the holes in the draft that needed to like sew the scenes together. And we were able to upload weekly without missing a single week. And like, as we were working on it and doing it, we're like, this is so much fun. Like, I love doing, do you want to do more? Like, do you want to like write original stuff? And Coffee had no idea that I was like the person that had wrote the biggest fanfics for the series. So I'm like,
so he didn't even know who he was working with. He
didn't. He had no clue because he hadn't been in the fandom at the time. He was, just having to see it like tertiarily. So he came in right after everybody like left and moved on. So I was like, yes, absolutely. I will write more long freaking fanfics for this, series and then just adapt it into comics.
Yeah,
and that's what we've been doing.
Because me right now, like I told you, I'm actually creating one of my own mangas, but having a full-time job, having a daughter, it's kind of hard to find time to do everything. So what I settled on doing was just creating the pencil art. So I make sure my vision is coming across panel to panel. And then I outsource, I find an inker, they ink it. It's more manga reference, so it's not really colored yet, but I am trying to, do the whole thing, get a colorer, manga artist. I mean, not a manga, ink artist. So that way I can just push out the pencils. And now, like for my next few works, I'm gonna do it on my iPad, so it's gonna be a lot easier to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
Paper. So definitely hearing someone go through something similar to that is definitely dope. And for everybody out here who's gonna watch this, you heard her, man. At first, she didn't, like she said, she didn't have the skill set, everything she needed to get it going, but she didn't let the dream die. So y'all just got to keep it going. You know what I mean? Prepare yourself, learn what you got to learn. So when you're ready to take off, you take off. That's real.
Right. Yeah. I held on to those pencil sketches for 6 years. And then when someone else was like, hey, I'll take a look at it, I'll read it if you make it, I was like, boom, that's all I need. One person.
I hear it. Let me ask you this. So what was it about Warrior You that made you say, this is it, I like it, I need more content of this?
Well, like Coffee and I are in the same boat. We're just hyper fixated with it. Like we love it. I'm sure our relatives are tired of us talking about it. Like we want to find new people to show it to. But mostly I think it was how it ended. That it was in the middle of an issue that was the backstory for the fan favorite character. So I know like there was so much pressure for her, like it has to be perfect. So seeing like having her old work destroyed and having to go back and redo it, like I understand fully how that could just like kill the creative drive. But to have that be where the series ends, just like halfway through and where the pages were getting lost, it was just, I think Coffee put it best. It's like repairing a childhood toy. Like you can't just leave it in a state that you feel like it could have been so much more.
Nah, definitely, no doubt, no doubt. And I definitely understand that. I actually went through some kind of similar just with my own manga. So unfortunately, I ended up getting scammed. So I was making my first manga, right? I did, I think, 9 chapters of it, did the whole shebang, pencil ink. And this was more of like a shonen manga. So I was dibbling with Instagram ads. I ran an ad in Japan because I'm like, well, Japan's where the manga comes from. I'm a Black manga artist in America. Let me see if someone got something to say. Let me see if someone's gonna, hit me up, pitch me, and let's get it going. So I do that for about a few months, and I get an email from Shonen Jump. Mind you, it was all a scam, but at the time I didn't know this. So they had me, I get the email, Shonen Jump. I'm like, oh, I made it. Yes, this is why I'm doing this. Shonen Jump, that's the big boy right there. That's like America's Marvel and DC. That's that's the ones. So I get the email. They want to sign my manga called The Pathfinder, right? But I had to redraw it from right to left, like Japanese comics. Page count 21 pages a chapter. So I'm getting all this in the emails, and I'm like, I really made it. It goes, they scammed so good. They even sent me a contract. My auntie, she works for like the city of Santa Monica and like the lawyer department. She takes it up there, let her lawyer friends read it. It comes back. I'm legit. It's a great contract. My dream come true. I go to my work. I was working for Google Express, dope job, manager, everything. It was real good money. I go there and I basically say, screw you. I'm quit. My dream come true. See y'all at the top. You know what I mean? Probably shouldn't have did that, but I like how my life worked out, so it all worked out. But long story short, though, so now I'm head in. I'm doing the manga. I'm making a chapter a week, 17 to 21 pages every week, pencil, script, inked. I'm doing it. I'm working about like 22-hour days. I don't got no time for friends, no time for my girl, nothing, right? I'm in it. And I was doing this for about 8 weeks until I realized, I'm being scammed here. You know what I mean? And that's a super long story on how I ended up getting scammed. But long story short, though, the gist of the story is I started it. Once I realized I was getting scammed, I put it down. I was like, I got to pay the bills because I haven't been making money for that whole 2 months because I was waiting on something that was never coming. So freaking yeah, so I went through a big writer's block depression type thing, like, God dang it, this ain't for me. But eventually, I got out of it and I realized I could do the work. I could work their schedule. I could make a manga. So I went back in with the 8 chapters I already had, added 2 more chapters, got 2 books of work, and they should be out sometime either end of next year or the end of this year or early next year. So I definitely get stopping and having to just find yourself again, find yourself in comic art again. Because like I said, I went through
Yeah,
it.
it's fantastic you were able to keep that work too, and they didn't just like outright steal it. Like I think
Yeah.
that would have just like killed
Now
me.
that would have I might have been in jail right now if they did that. I would have flew to Japan and somebody was going to get it. But yeah, but so that didn't end up happening, and I was always good on copyright. So I make sure before I put a chapter out anywhere, a page, I copyright it. I make sure that's good. So I wasn't really worried about them stealing it. It was more the fact that it wasn't even real. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
nothing. But like I said, I sat back. I thought about, you know what? I could actually work their schedule. I got it. I got what it takes to be a manga creator, and that juiced me up now to where now I'm working on a whole new series, and I definitely can't wait to put that out there. But let me ask you this now. So you're in AZ. So how is the webcomic culture as compared to it is out here in California?
So I honestly don't know much about like the Cali weeb culture and stuff like that. I've only been to WonderCon a few times, but convention wise, I feel like California cons are more professional and like it's people from Sony hosting the panels, whereas Arizona is very fan club kind of feel. The person that's hosting the panel is going to be someone like me who like just has the time to talk for an hour about what you're doing. And just there's definitely more video in Cali. That Arizona, you have like a lot of cosplay photographers, but I haven't seen nearly as many like people doing cosplay footage reels. But it's so wild because I feel like anime and cartoons and stuff has been taking off a lot more here in the last decade. Like when I was a kid and it was all 4Kids stuff and Pokemon, like I was drawing fan art and kids were making fun of me for drawing Japanese people. And now, when I was, walking down the street, I'm seeing like little kids recognize the anime character that I am. And I'm like, shoot, you're like 5, which means your sibling or your parent is watching anime. And that is like, it's just so wild to me for it to become mainstream rather than this niche thing that you're getting poked fun at for being like obsessed with.
Yeah. And, that's kind of, why we made the podcast, growing up here in LA, we live in the hood and stuff. It's gentrified now, so it's a lot better over here. But growing up, this was the hood, and we couldn't just go outside and be like, "Hey, did you see Dragon Ball Z last night, or did you catch the new Naruto?" We were laughed at, picked on, bullied. So as we got older, we started to realize like the culture's changing. Anime's getting more accepted now. Like I said, we got the podcast. One of my co-hosts, my brother Espinner Almighty, he's a personal trainer, trains nothing but beautiful women all day. I do tattoos. Our other co-host, Taco, he's an MMA fighter. And I got another co-host, Parrish, he does his own thing. So we're just showing that, it's not just like, because back then, if you were an anime watcher, you were the weirdo. No, not no more. Now everybody can do it. You can love anime weeb culture and still be a man and still be capable of doing whatever it is you want to do. And that's why, that's one of the reasons why we even formed the podcast, just to let people know, this is where we watch anime and this is where it's cool to be you. You know what I mean? Everybody's unique. Everybody got strong special thing. And just because you like a certain genre of television and comic books, you shouldn't be looked down upon for that. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, totally. Because like we went from like me and 2 friends like talking about Magic Knight Rayearth to now we have, oh gosh, at least 5 or 6 anime specific conventions in Arizona that happen every year. And then more pop-up events this year have been happening. So at least once a month, something anime related is happening somewhere in Arizona.
There we go. So, the culture is definitely getting more accepted. And speaking of, anime, mangas and stuff, what is your favorite anime, manga, webcomic, and do any of these inspire your work with Warrior You?
that's like, what's your favorite manga? I feel like would change like month to month depending on like what you're most like. Is it the one you've watched the most? Is it the one that you've done like the most fan art from? But for coffee, it was Scott Pilgrim, which now that I look at his art, I'm like, oh, of course you're super like it's the bold lines, it's the bright colors, it's like the staging, like it has like you can see its influence in that. And he was also super into Homestuck, which fun fact, the back in the day, the Warrior U fandom and the Homestuck fandom like kind of commingled a lot.
Okay.
Just because Homestuck would have like these huge hiatuses. And I feel like a lot of the people that were into Homestuck would just branch out and look for any other webcomic they could find while they were waiting for Homestuck to update. So I think that that's definitely like a big foundation of like webcomic culture, like what you see, you know, Ava's Demon, Lore Olympus, stuff like that. That was also updating off comic apps at the time. So like that's how people found them.
That's dope. That's dope to hear that.
For me, Warrior U obviously is a big inspiration for me. Danganronpa, like I cosplayed so many characters from Danganronpa. I love how they do like different eye styles for all of their different characters. I feel like it helps with like same face syndrome.
Yeah.
And just late 80s, early 90s high fantasy. So like Labyrinth, Robin Hood Man in Tights, like honestly, anything Mel Brooks related. If I'm stuck trying to figure out how to make something funny, I look back to his work and go like, okay, how did like vaudeville and like old school slapstick, how did they do it? And they just throw everything at the wall. And then if one joke doesn't land, you'll have two others in the same group and one of them will make someone laugh.
Yeah, no, that's so dope. Being, like I said, being a comic creator myself, how like when I'm stuck or when I want to do a scene and I wanted to portray a certain feel, I'll look back and I'll read some manga scenes and I'm like, okay, I want people to feel like this when they read this scene. And then I'll take that scene and readapt it to my manga. And yeah, the feeling comes across. So, you know, definitely having other work to be inspired from helps a lot in you know, the creation world. You know what I mean? Like just right now, I have a scene in my new manga without spoiling too much about it, but it's highly influenced from a crazy scene in Berserk. You know what I mean? It got real dark, real gritty, and it makes you feel like that wasn't supposed to happen. Now, how do they deal with it? You know what I mean? And it took me a real long time to figure out how I'm gonna put this scene together. And I said, you know, let me just, you know, because I was going for this one in Berserk. So I said, let me reread this scene. I reread the scene and I'm like, this is how I'm gonna do it. You know, let me change it to like I said, to my manga, but this is how I'm gonna do it. So let me ask you this though. So in continuing someone else's work, do you ever feel like you're under pressure to be just as good or even better than the original?
So Coffee and I are like completely on opposite ends of it right now. So like he felt way more pressure when we were working on the official pages that were drafts that was like actually her, you know, staging and her writing and stuff like that. Like he was always like feeling like, you know, what if it's not good enough? What if people go like, that's bad? He was the one that wrote all the scenes that sewed her scenes together too. So like there was like this feeling of like, what if it doesn't flow quite right? And then I went and took it and showed it to the creator and he was like, oh no, she's gonna have opinions about what I did now. And I'm just like, it's good. No, it's great. It's fine. But now that we're working on stuff that I've wrote and he's like drafted, I'm feeling the heat now because I'm like, now it's my writing.
You're under the pressure, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so aware of like the tonal shifts and like you can't like I feel like we've written a good story. Like fully confident in the story itself. Like the concerns that I feel is like, does it match? Is the vibe the same? Is the art style close enough? Are the characters acting the way that the audience would expect? But I know for Coffee, like he takes a lot of comfort knowing that at the end of the day, it technically is still fanfic. Like the creator's not giving us notes. The creator's not intervening with what we do. Like we're running off the rails there. And any kind of criticism, he could just go like, well, this is just our interpretation of these characters in this world and what we want to do with it.
Well, that's actually some good insight because me and one of my co-hosts, Taco, we're both manga creators, and we're actually going to make some fan fiction of Naruto. You know, Can't say exactly what, but just know we're gonna fan fiction a battle between two characters that should have faced off, but we never got it. So with that, all y'all out there, y'all comment below, you let us know who you think it is, and you might be right. Who knows? But yeah, so in doing that, one thing that as we're writing and we're coming up with ideas, we're really trying to keep it to the Masashi Kishimoto feel. We want it to feel like they're reading Naruto. We don't want it to feel like two dudes trying to just scrap together a shonen, fan fiction. So we're definitely feeling the pressure with that, especially with the dialogue, what a character would say, what they wouldn't say, how they would react. So we're just going back into the Naruto, looking at him, seeing how some characters acted in certain situations and trying to just adapt it to our fan fiction. There was definitely some pressure when creating a fan fiction. And you actually you drew one of the longest fan fictions in the series, right?
Yeah, the two longest at the height of the fandom, and so much more now, because not to show my age, but I feel like younger people in fandom don't participate the same way that they used to. They're not leaving comments, they're not making fan art, they're not making fanfic like they used to. It's like I feel like the community is a lot more passive. So back in the day, I wrote like 20K, 25K each for the fics, and then I knew the creator was reading everything. So I was like, I have a guaranteed audience. This is like a giant fan letter, like a love letter to it, because I wanted to see the two main characters get together. And she had so many people in her ass box. When are they going to get together? When are they going to kiss? When are they going to do this? When are they going to confess? And I was like, this is what it would look like if that happened. And so after that, anytime she was getting a question, she'd be like, go read that. Like, if you want to answer of when are they going to kiss, like, go read that. And I was like, she said, go read that. Yeah, she liked it.
No, that's real dope. So how does it feel to be like recognized and promoted by the original creator?
The first time it happened when I was a teenager, like I cried because there was this like really strong parasocial relationship where it's like your idol, like, and she was so active and so supportive of anybody, no matter like how beginner status their skills were. So like to have her go like, hey, go look at this. This is really neat. Like I enjoyed it. I was just like, oh my gosh.
That sounds real dope. And I'll tell you right now, if Masashi Kishimoto writes me a letter, email, DM, or anything about this fan fiction we're going to make, I'm gonna lose my top. So I definitely I get the feeling because that's pretty great. You like something so much, you want to continue it. Then the person who created it is like, wow, you're doing a really good job. Keep it going. That definitely got to add some gas to the tank, make you start really going in, pushing out those chapters.
Yeah. So by this point, I've written over 100,000 words this year alone of just serial supplemental AU fic, because like we're only releasing one page of the comic at a time. So I'm like, to keep the audience engaged, I'm also doing fan art and supplemental material for the thing that we're working on to keep people coming back and keep people like ravenous for more. And that's like how you do it. Like that's how you get people to engage in something, even if you don't have like a lot of product. You have to be the biggest fan of the thing that you're working on.
No, I definitely understand that, because if you can't keep yourself motivated and love what you do, then how is anyone else going to love it? So I definitely feel that. I remember when I was creating my first mangas and I was telling all my homies about it, I'm just rambling for damn near hour and a half, 2 hours about it. And I know that they don't want to hear it no more, but hey, I'm gonna hear it or you're gonna get away from me, man, because I'm gonna keep talking about it. So I definitely get that feeling. And so I see like most of your work, your webcomic where you use, the continuation is basically you put it on Tumblr. Why didn't you do like a webtoons or like a manga dex? Why did you choose Tumblr?
So some of it is just that's where most of the old fan base was. That was where we initially had permission to repost her content. And it's just the one that we're most familiar with. Like I can't figure out Instagram's algorithm. I swear it changes every month. I can't figure out like any of the other things. And I find it really interesting you bring up webtoons and manga decks specifically, because when I was looking at where to cross post once we got permission to upload to other comic outlets, webtoons been under fire for like being really crummy to their indie creators, specifically ones that aren't writing romance. And our comic is fantasy comedy. So like we wouldn't get any promotion. If we were able to get a contract, it sounds like it was going to be, really, really rigorous, which is not something either Coffee or I could do. And MangaDex is a pirating website. So like most of the stuff on MangaDex is like fan translations or fan scanlations of manga. So not a lot of that stuff is actually like original content. So when I was looking around of like where does adventure and comedy and fantasy stuff get promoted the most? And what I found was Tapas and Comic Theory.
Yep.
So like Comic Theory, I found we've done like the best with passive engagement, not necessarily subscribers. And I think it's because it is like that, 2010, 2000s era, like web format for comic hosting. It's very nostalgic. But even still on Tumblr, I'd say we get twice the amount of growth per week. And I think that's because the blog has, fan art, it has other stuff that we're posting at the same time. Whereas like Tapas and Comic Theory, you can only update comics and blog posts. So it's like once a week we're posting there, and then daily we're posting on the Tumblr.
Okay, now that's definitely good insight for anyone out there who's making a web comic, or you want to put your web comic out there. You heard a few reasons why you might want to try Tumblr. Me, I put mine on Webtoons, and I do get what you mean with the really no promotion, the rigorous contracts and all that stuff. So I definitely do get it. So yeah, okay, Tumblr, that might be something I might have to look into for my next drop. I'm gonna figure it out. Do you ever plan on making like your own web comic, like a new story, new characters, all 100% your idea? You thinking about doing something like that?
So Coffee and I are big into games, and like that's if we ever did original content of our own, that's kind of where we're looking at putting our characters. Coffee doesn't have anything concrete yet. I have a visual novel I've been working on for 5 years that's been in development hell because we were trying to get it made on Unity. And I couldn't find anyone that could make a save load system and CG gallery collection system that would interact with the stuff. Because I can't, I'm a writer, I'm an artist. I don't understand the program tech side of it. So I was trying to avoid Ren'Py so that I could have like boss battle scenes. Like I like how like Persona 5 and like the cinematic nature of a boss fight without the level grind of the RPG format. But I'm having to look at cutting those features just so that people can, save their game. But if this shift to Python doesn't work out, then I'm going to adapt it as a comic. And it's like, picture Teen Titans supervillains meets Gifted Kid Burnout. It's all about like teen villains going to reform school and how society would actually react to teenage supervillains.
I think that's something you should make because, and a lot of the shows and comic stuff we get is usually some teenagers battling a grown man. Every now and then we get a teenager thing, but for the most part, it's not really like that. So that's definitely some. I feel like you should do it. Go ahead and do it. I would have definitely liked to read it.
Heck yeah! Once I got something a little more concrete, because we have like a alpha build, but it doesn't have a lot of story elements. So next week we're going to start working on chapter 1 of the visual novel.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, hey, best of luck to that. Like I said, once that's done, send me a link. I'm gonna check it out.
Heck yeah.
Now, to anybody, how could I say it? To those people out here in the world who decide to shut down the path of a comic creator like you and I have, is there any advice you think you could give them?
Coffee's insight on this was so much better than mine. I was like basic. I'm like, no more than 8 panels per page, like have someone to review your work. And Coffee's like, ask for help. Like, when people talk about Toby Fox and Daisuke oh gosh, I'm gonna mess up this name. Amaya, there we go. Media outlets love to perpetuate this myth of the one-man show because, it's more interesting that way to go like, Stan Lee's done all these things. Toby Fox has made all these games and assets all by themselves. But there are people that have helped them along the way. There's writers, there's artists, there's editors, no one person's an island. So you shouldn't feel like you're less of an artist for reaching out and finding someone to do the part of the project that you find grueling.
Okay, definitely. I hear that because when I was making my comic, wasn't no help. I ain't know who to ask, and I didn't think to ask them. So that probably would have helped a lot. I'm a YouTube baby, so everything I've done and created, I learned off of YouTube. But as I started to get, older and more into it, and more adult, more mature, dealing with people, I realized, hey, if you want to answer, you just gotta ask. And what's the worst that could happen? They tell you no, or they don't know. Now, at least now you know that that avenue is closed. But for the most part, people want to give information. They want to give you the game. They just never ask for it.
It's really easy to internalize that mindset. I feel like most artists I've talked to have like felt like some sense of like guilt or like I'm not as good of an artist as I could be if they have someone helping them out. But like if you hear somebody else working on a project, like, oh yeah, me and these other guys are like doing a manga, your reaction isn't like, oh, how dare you have other guys? It's always like, oh, what's it about? Like how is it? Like what is it?
No, that's definitely real. And like I said, a lot of people just gotta you just gotta go for it, man. Just ask somebody, man. The game is out there. They love to give you the game. What inspires your art, and what would you consider the style to be?
I consider my style to be pretty shoujo manga, actually. I've been doing a lot of sketchbook tours, looking back at like old fan art I did, and I can see how like Invader Zim and Danganronpa, the fan art I did for that, influences how I design characters and how I design like draw hands. If anyone was like big in the Flash game DeviantArt era, Packthesis, which did a lot of like dating sims, really influenced like how I chose clothing and color palettes for my characters too. And it was something I never even noticed until someone like looked at one of the characters I drew and they're like, did you play Packthesis games growing up? And I was like, yes. How did you know? And apparently it's just all over my art.
Yeah, no, that's dope. And then I will say this: so when I create manga, it's funny because it's like, let's say I'm reading Naruto this week, then you might see a hint of Naruto in my manga. Then I'll switch up and I'll be reading One Piece, and for some reason the characters decide, especially with the extra characters look a little One Piece. It's like it always switches. You know what I mean? Especially as you keep drawing, but it also goes back to the content you're taking in. You know, because like I said, I'll read like I've been reading Blue Lock a lot lately. Now I try to. You might see a panel on my page where you see the eyes scribble up like how they do in Blue Lock. You know what I mean? It's just wild to me how like we can be inspired so much by other people's content. You know, because yeah, I will say that's me for sure. I read something, I like how it looks. You're going to see it in the next chapter somewhere, some way on one of the characters, side characters. You're going to see it.
Yeah, and because of that, I've actually been criticized on some of the amino apps for drawing too Western now, because the comic that we're drawing is like 2000s era cartoony. So that's starting to bleed in anytime I try to draw anime.
Yeah, there's always those guys out there who's going to have something to say. So, imagine this. So the people who want to draw art and just share with the world, what is some advice that you could, piece of advice you give them?
So Coffee's like, just do it. It doesn't matter if you don't think you have the right tools or you don't have the right skills, like just make art. That it's a really easy to like compare yourself to other artists, but other artists aren't in the room when you're drawing. They're not there for the experience of making your creation. And someone's always going to like it. I have super cringy fanfic from like 2010 that I don't think is any good anymore that people still read and read the whole thing. And I'm like now I can't delete it. Like, even though I think it's awful, they think it's great. And for me, don't go off of social media algorithms of how good your art is. Like, no matter how well you play the game, low engagement, high engagement, it doesn't make you a better artist or a bad artist for not being able to figure out how the app works. And if you keep posting and talking to other artists, you're going to find people that love your work. Like, it's just, you can't get caught up in that numbers game.
No, that's definitely real. And that was something that at least with me, with my first time doing the my web comic trial with the Pathfinder, I was I actually put on a website called the Duck Web Comics. And you know about that one?
I do know. I looked into that.
Yeah, so I put it on there, and it was a pretty cool website. I definitely got some views on it, got some comments, got some love, but it wasn't as fast as I wanted it to go. So that did get a little discouraging. But I just have to suck it up and be like, and actually what it was someone sent me some fan art of one of my characters. And I was like, people was reading this, like, what the heck is going on? So once I got that, I was like, okay. I kind of put a battery in my back. And then and so the Pathfinder, I did 2 times. One, I did 9 chapters of, and that was the American traditional way comics are, done in red, left to right. And like I told you, I did get scanned by the people doing the Shonen Jump, but when I redid it, I re-uploaded it to Webtoons, and I got, because I came at it a lot different. I had a little bit more marketing knowledge, so I approached it there, and I did pretty good. I was getting more fan art. Got anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 people were reading it. Got a whole bunch of subscribers from it. So it was actually a dope feeling. Now that I have even a lot more knowledge of marketing, I really can't wait to start putting my stuff back out there and just giving it to the people, because like I said, there's people out there who read it. Now, me personally, I can't tell you 20 people who read it, but thousands of people read it. So it's like that. People do enjoy the work. You just got to put it out there. And that's my advice to anyone out there who's in the art, or you want to start drawing, draw it, put it out there. You know what I mean? What's the worst that's going to happen? Someone tells you the line's tricky. Well, at least now make your lines straight. It's like, don't take the hate for hate. Take it as criticism. And yeah, of course, there's always people out there who's going to be haters. Ignore them. You know what I mean? Other than that, get to it. And that's what I did for myself, and I love where it got me.
Well, I think you made a good point too about like how when you saw fan art of your creation, like it put a battery in your back, like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. It could be a stick figure. Send it to the person that made the thing you're making fan art of. Like, worst case scenario, they don't look at it. Best case scenario, they do, and they get that rush of joy that you got from reading what they made.
Yeah, no, that is that's real, and I'm glad that you said that, because everybody out there listening heard it. And so now I want to diverge a little bit. So at WonderCon, that's where we met, WonderCon 2023. You were with a group of girls cosplaying as chainsaw characters. I believe you were Power, right?
Yeah.
There we go. You guys had to host a bang, dope group of girls. You guys killed the cosplay. Is that something you guys do normally as a group, or was it just like, hey, let's this one time go out and cosplay?
So personally, I was born into cosplay. My parents were Vampire the Masquerade cosplayers. They did live games, they did D&D. So I just grew up with that stuff around it. My first cosplay was when I was 14. I did Krona from Soul Eater, just using a vintage dress from, my grandma. But I started getting more into it in college, and I found like who I cosplay with just is determined by who I want to cosplay. So if there's other people doing Chainsaw Man, heck yeah, we're all doing Chainsaw Man. If there's other people doing like Futurama, like, hey, I'll just ask around all my cosplayer friends, like, do you want in? And sometimes they don't join you. Like, sometimes you're going solo, but it doesn't matter if like they don't know what series you're from. They usually will appreciate like the effort you put into recreating the character regardless.
Yeah, no, that's something that blows my mind with cosplayers is a lot of you guys make your own cosplay. And I don't understand how that even works, but you guys do it, and I give you all like your props and your flowers for even being that creative to do it. And then to just not even just make it, but then to have, the resolve to go out in public with it and, just show it off. And, for the most part, at least at WonderCon, there was a lot of great cosplay. You and your group were definitely a part of that. And there was also some not so good cosplay there too, but they were there. So
everyone starts somewhere.
So what was your favorite? What's the favorite cosplay that you've ever done? What character?
So like of the ones that I personally made, I'd have to say Joker from Persona 5 or Alluring Secret Ren. I lean more towards Ren because I took a wedding vest, like a men's wedding vest, and slashed it up and then hand stitched all the ruffles. So I'll send that to you later, and I'll give you all the stuff I'm talking about.
And this is what I'm talking about though. Like for you to just sit there and create your own cosplay, and just like I wouldn't even know where to start. You know what I mean? I'm the cheap guy. Just go on Amazon, give me the suit for $50. I'm a rocket. So you guys taking the extra mile really shows your dedication to the culture, to cosplaying and the whole. And it shows that, hey man, everyone got some creativity in them.
Yeah, but ones that I didn't make that I just like bought and pieced together and did styling wise. Eris from Grim Adventures of Billy Mandy that I'm working on right now. That's coming along great. And Professor Chaos from South Park. Like I just love taking characters that are like really simple and then elaborating on it through styling and fashion and accessories and like showing what it would look like if they were walking around. So Chaos actually has like these metal iron gauntlets that I've managed to get into 2 cons. I got it into WonderCon and I got it into PCC, and I am still like floored that they were able to let me get those in. And because they're gauntlets, they had to piece bond my belt, so it was like I was the weapon instead of the weapons that I was bringing in.
Nah, that's creative. That's dope. What cosplay character would you really like to do that you've never done yet?
Oh, that I haven't done yet. Grayscale Betty Boop. So I have all this stuff from White Diamond, white face paint, nail gloves, all of that. And I was like, I could repurpose some of this stuff and do like black and white Betty Boop. And I think that would look so good. I did it in high school once. And now that I have like much better skills, I want to tackle it again.
Now that sounds fire. So you're talking about like when you say grayscale, like how it was back in the day, like the black and white TV. No, okay, that's fire. That's fire. I've never seen that before. So that's definitely something I feel like, you should do it. That should be dope. Like, yeah, that's like I said, yeah, I've never seen that one before. But have you ever thought about cosplaying somebody from the fan fiction you make, Warrior You?
I do actually. I cosplay the main character Finn. So I have like this really big, elaborate, like steampunk corset skirt, like all the bells and whistles. And then I have a scaled down, more canon version that I can, when I vend at booths, you can't have, like, you need to be able to bend over. So I have like that as well. And I'll send a pic that we went to the Ren Fair as it, and I had these awful boots, but I was able to meet a unicorn. So I was able to really like capture the medieval pseudo fantasy
hell
vibe.
yeah. You can get the whole feeling vibe from it. That's dope. So and I'll tell you this, man. I've tried cosplay. I call myself the Black Gil, but I go as far as to put the cloak on, and that's as far as I got. So like I said, more props off, my hats off to you and all the other cosplayers out there who are taking it that extra mile. And that Betty Boop costume is going to be taking it the extra mile. So I'll definitely, like I said, if you do that, send me some of that. Hopefully I'm at the same con you're at, and we meet and get to take some flicks, videos, the whole shebang. So let me ask you this. Now I'm gonna go back to Warrior You. Where do you see Warrior You going in like the next 5 years?
So Poppy and I have different visions of it, and that's okay. Like, he sees it as just like, he wants that fandom revival. Like, that's always been his goal. That's always been his aim, is just get more people to look at something that he loves. The fact that we've been able to keep going for a year so far is just like, it's crazy to see how much work we've done. So if we're still able to keep at it for 5 years, like, I can only imagine how much content we'd have, because we have at least 3 years worth of story drafted, lined up, ready to draw and adapt into comic pages. And that's if we take no breaks. Mm-hmm. And then we've still got other like plot arcs that we have outlined. So we have like a good roadmap for the series. I want to release physical copies, and we got permission from the creator to sell physical copies of the stuff that we've wrote. So I'd like to do that. I asked her if she wanted to adapt her series, like the original run, into physical books, and she said she wasn't interested, which, in her defense, my Twitter got hacked. So I had a whole bunch of Bitcoin garbage just getting spit out like fire on my main page. So the fact that she took my message at all and gave me permission at all, I'm like, thank you for knowing that, like, I'm not the scammer. Like, I am trying my best, but I also would understand why if someone with all that on their page that you barely know goes like, can I have your thing and turn it into a book? I could see why it would be like, no.
Yeah, nah, definitely. We got to give shouts out to them for taking a chance on you, because it's looking like it's working out.
Yeah, I'm so thankful. Like, they promoted the project on the official blog. So like, it had been dead since like 2017. And then just they posted the link after we sent them our draft. We're like, hey, we did this. This is what we want to keep it going. They were like, yeah, go for it. Like, by all means, just make sure people know that they're my characters. And I'm like, done. Easy.
There we go. Well, that's dope. The whole process behind it is that's heck of dope, man. I wonder if Masashi Kishimoto would give me his blessing for this fan fiction I'm gonna write. That might be a little harder to get, but we're gonna try it. We're gonna try it. I'm not gonna lie, we're gonna drop it anyway.
Crazy good things have happened. There was this one gal that ended up being that started out as a fanfic writer that turned into a show writer for Xena Warrior Princess. So like it's happened before.
There we go. There we go. And like I said, we got something cooking. But okay, so let me ask you, this is gonna be the last question before we close out. If you could go back 5 years and give yourself some advice, what would that advice be?
Yeah. So Coffee's right now 20 and I am 28. So we're in like different stages in our life. So Coffee's advice, especially if like you're a teen dealing with mental health issues, is like it does get better. Like you just gotta like hold out, because you know part of being a teen is like not being able to make your own decisions. So like the freedom to make your own decisions, to seek help when you know you need help, to like it does get better. You just have to get through like that really dark, rough part. Because once you have that autonomy, like you'll be able to make the decisions that will be best for you, and you'll be able to keep moving forward. But he's like, would my 15-year-old self take that advice? That's another
question.
Another question entirely. But him speaking as someone that did struggle with, you know, getting autism and depression and stuff like that, like he says, you know, it does get better. And for me,
it does.
For me, so many bad things happened in those 5 years. Like my father passed, the pandemic happened. And the advice that I wish I had, ironically, is I wish I knew what burnout felt like. Like everyone talks about it, but I didn't recognize it at the time. So I have this tendency to put my self-worth in how much I've made that week. So once I started working full time, once I was having to deal with funeral arrangements, I was nursing during the pandemic. Like I didn't know that when I was like physically and emotionally exhausted, that I deserved rest. I was just like, well, I've done all these things that I had to do, and now I can't do the thing I want to do. So now I feel like I feel guilty for like the one day I have off, not working on the stuff that I say I want to work on. And like for me, that was just like overstimulation and fatigue. So like I felt bad for taking naps, for sleeping on my day off. And you shouldn't feel bad for getting the rest that you need. And now when I see it like creeping up, I know, okay, if I'm having to like nap and rest and just veg out on the couch for the next 3 days, like it's not permanent. I'm gonna get that rest. I'm gonna get that, you know, recharge, and then I'm gonna be able to keep working.
That's real. And you know, definitely to everyone out there who's watching, you know, you gotta keep it real with yourself. You know, you can lie to everybody else, but keep it real with yourself. If you know that you're about to hit your limit, relax, calm down. Everybody deserves a cool off period, you know? And that's definitely something that I kind of went through myself when I was creating them 20-hour days, doing that stuff for Shonen Jump. You know, it came down to I was under so much pressure I thought it was the big deal. I'm like, bro, there is no time for rest. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and then at the end of the 8 weeks of going through all that to find out it wasn't what it was, you know, that hit me real hard. So, and then I got the longer rest that I needed. But after that rest and getting through it, I realized I got to get back on my feet and get back at it. You know what I mean? So, and yes, everyone out there, man, don't kill yourself, man. Just you know when you're hitting your limit, you deserve a rest, and then once you're rested, get back to it.
No, because like it's so easy for an artist to go like, I have made no pictures or I've done no writing in the last 2 weeks. Like,
yeah, and you know that's kind of how of where I'm at, like kind of now. Because like I said, I'm still creating. I'm working on this new manga that I want to finish before I really re-release my Pathfinder. Before I start creating the book, so I'm almost done with it. I should be done by the end of May. But you know, especially since it's tax season, on a day-to-day, I do tattoos. I'm a tattoo artist, so I've been so flooded with that, and then I podcast every Sunday. So I've been, you know, and I got a daughter, so you know, sometimes I'm so flooded and drained from doing that. Then I come home 2-3 days go by, I haven't made a page, and I be beating myself up in here like, dude, what are you doing? But you know, I gotta come and accept, like, hey, man, I'm not a machine, no matter how much I want to be. You know, I need a break. And and I've lately been coming to terms with that, and things have actually been flowing a lot more smooth. Because what I found myself doing was it'll be days where I didn't want to write or didn't do this, not because I didn't want to, but because I've been burnt out. I've been doing 40, 50 hours a week of tattooing, fathering, the whole shebang, right? And then I come home, I draw some pages, I think they're cool. I finally get the rest I need the next week, go back and be like, oh, this shit is crap. I should have just waited when I had clear mind and, give them my 100%. And I realized that, yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. So one of the things I actually did that helped a lot is, you see these watercolors back here. These are all the backgrounds I'm doing for the visual novel that I've been working on. So like anytime I get down on myself, like, you haven't done any work today, I just look at the wall of art and I'm like, you've done a lot this year. Like, even though you're not doing a lot right now, you have made progress.
Nah, definitely. And that's one thing that I like to do is I always write everything down. I write my goals for the comic book down, aside goals for the podcast and goals for the tattoo, just so I know that I'm moving. You know what I mean? And I feel like doing that helps a lot. Because like I said, every 2-3 days I go and I I haven't done no work, but then I look at my wall and I got like a whole bunch of stuff checked off for my new manga. I'm like, oh well, no, I'm getting it done. I'm supposed to have 4 chapters before the year over. I'm on chapter 4. It's only May. It's only April, about to be May. I'm almost done, so I'm moving. And definitely having that reminder that you are actually working, you're doing something, you're moving forward. I think that's the big help, because especially like when you really believe in it, you really want it to happen. So that's the thing about comic books, is that they're not going to make themselves. So you can get down when it's not being made. But like I said, kind of like you said, you have been doing the work. This didn't work yesterday. It's all right. You know what I mean? You went to real work. You actually got to work on your paycheck. The bills got to get paid first. You know what I mean? And eventually, the goal is, of course, to have the comic books pay for our life. But until that happens, we got to be adults. We got to be real with it, and we got to handle business. Yeah. And so that being said, I think we're about to close out. Is there anything else you want to tell the people before we close out?
Well, thank you so much for interviewing me, and by extension, Coffee.
Shout you out, Coffee. I know you're not on the screen, but hey, I get a picture of you. I'm gonna throw you up. Shout you out, Coffee. We know you here too.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that we've done something that other people are interested, because I always thought that the story of how we got started was cool, but like Coffee's like, I never thought that like anyone else would want to hear about that. And also shout out to Aisha Tani. She's working on a different series now. Forgive me, I'm an American and my Arabic is not great, but Sila, Si3LAH. It's a Middle Eastern mythology series. So it's definitely like a companion piece. You can see how they go together, but she's making that. That's up on Gumroad. Go support her. Go, like, because she's trying to do the hustle too. She's trying to make money off of her work too.
Yeah, no, definitely, no doubt. And then, that's the whole reason why I started this new show on the podcast called The Path. Because talking about culture, we all realize, we all come from different walks of life. We're all doing different things, but we all ended up here. So how did you get here to where you're at now, to this call? Everybody got a path. Everyone's on their own path, and hell, it might be something that you said today that sparked something in someone else, and that's what I want. As long as one person is touched by it, we're going to keep it going. So with that being said, thank you for coming through, Alex, aka Worldismynee, across all platforms. We out. The Path.